Well, we've talked about the importance of setting proper expectations, and really that's kind of the whole point of doing a structured presentation, is to make sure that you're aligning their expectations with what you are actually going to do. What we're going to talk about now is basically a list of those expectations that you need to go through as you're going through your presentation. Dennis used to actually keep this as a list and make sure as he was going through that he'd check off that he talked about each and every one of these things. So there was no misunderstandings, no calls after the fact saying, why didn't you do this? Or why did you do this? They understand the whole marketing process and what you are going to do to sell a home. So let's get started. The first one is visibility. You're not going to be around all the time. You're probably not going to call them every day. You're not going to check in with them maybe in the same way that they think you will. So make sure you tell them when you're going to call them, how you're going to contact them. We used to send out a lot of letters. Every showing we sent a letter with feedback. That was something we shared with them up front. This is how we're going to stay in touch with you. One of the ways. Follow through on whatever you commit to doing. We used to have Fridays as our check-in day, where we would tell them, we're just gonna check in on Friday, let you know what's going on. This was usually after they had a contract in process. We'd follow up, tell them where the loan was and how things were progressing. But we had a Friday system where we did that. And we told them that up front, that that's how we would do it. Open houses. People have a lot of ideas about what sells a home and what doesn't, and open houses are something that they see people doing. They think that that is something that sells a house. If you want to do an open house, fine. Let them know how often you plan on doing it. If you don't want to do an open house, make sure they understand why. That open houses typically don't sell houses. Less than 2% of all homes are sold as a direct result of an open house. So explain that to them if you don't want to hold their house open. Marketing. You need to be specific about how, when, and where you plan on marketing their home. Show them the websites. Don't forget the MLS. That is a giant part of our marketing, the fact that we have a whole team of other agents ready and willing to show your home, people waiting in the wings with buyers. A lot of people forget to talk about that, and it's huge. It's a big part of our marketing. So don't forget that. Make sure that you show them your website, show them the CRM, show them where the buyers will be coming from. Also, it's important to explain that you may not be the one selling the home. A lot of times they have this idea that you're going to be the one bringing all the buyers through. You're going to be the one who actually sells the home. And make sure they understand that how the MLS works, how we function with other agents, and the fact that more than likely someone else will be selling their home. Prepare them ahead for price adjustments. We haven't had to do this in a while, but we're getting back into a market where we're seeing more and more price reductions. I think sellers have been a little optimistic about what their homes are worth in this rapidly appreciating market. And so we may need to step that back a little bit and tell them, if you're not getting showings, if we aren't getting an offer within 30 days or so, we may need to adjust the price. Just prepare them for that up front. Talk about showings. Make sure they understand that they need to be gone for showings. They need to make themselves scarce. If they can't leave the home, they need to go for a walk around the block, go way out in the backyard, do something, but do not engage with those buyers. There's all kinds of reasons why that's a bad idea, but it's always counterproductive. I've never seen a seller sell a home for the agent. It's always counterproductive. So explain that, explain, how they need to handle showings. Let them know that sometimes agents are running behind. The showing may be scheduled for 3 o'clock or maybe between 3 and 4, and the buyers show up at 4:30. Tell them to be understanding in that situation. We've had times where sellers will just lash out at the agent, and of course that has a negative effect on the buyer. Nobody wants to look at a house when somebody's been screamed at. So let them know that we don't know how long somebody will take to look at a home. Sometimes people are really quick. Other times they come in with their ladder and flashlights, and they want to look in every nook and cranny. So make sure you prepare them for that expectation. Concessions. This is a big one right now. We need to prepare them for the idea that not only may the buyer request help with their closing costs and parts of their financing, but they will also probably be asking for the seller to help out by paying the buyer fee to their agent. So explain all that. Make sure you're explaining how we get paid. You're going to be going over that when you do the listing agreement. You'll be filling out an amount and you'll explain it again there. But make sure they understand up front that the buyer will probably be asking for some type of concession, and that it doesn't matter because we're going to work off your net price. We're going to make sure that you get what you want for your home, that the bottom line is all that matters. Explain the time on the market. Every region and neighborhood is different, so make sure you have that information and know your numbers. Share that with them so they aren't disappointed. If the average time on the market is 6 months, but they're seeing other areas sell in 30 days, they're going to be wondering what you're doing wrong unless you explain it to them up front. Price variation. We're going to see more probably differences between the listing price and the sales price. We've been in a market now where sellers have been getting more than asking price. That may be changing. We're starting to see a slow change in that kind of thing. So make sure they understand what they can expect in terms of the actual offer and what their list price is. Listing callbacks. What do we do? What do we tell the seller or discuss? Okay, so when we call them back, these are the types of things that we want to talk about. And you say, I'm going to call you once a week. This is the list. You can talk about the price adjustment if necessary, the results of specific showings. And I can't tell you how important giving them feedback on showings is. They desperately want that, and if you neglect to do that, they'll get angry about it. They want to know. They want to know what people think of their home. So give them the courtesy of giving that information. They want to know the results of your marketing. So one great tool that we always used was Tour Factory. It summarized how many people had looked at the home online and where they saw it. Lots of great information there, and it sent out a nice report on a weekly basis. So you can talk about that with them. Talk about updates on current market conditions. Once a month, we used to run what we called a SACS report. Solds, actives, and expireds. So we would do a CMA regularly to update them on any activity in the market. And what we found is when we sent that out on a monthly basis, we would get calls from them saying, oh, it looks like I need to reduce my house. It looks like it's higher than everything else in the area, which we never had before we started doing that. It was just not unheard of to get calls from the seller asking for a price reduction. But when they see it in black and white, it makes sense to them. Call them to just say hi. Call them to say, hey, I'm here. I don't have anything to report. I'm still out here working for you. Haven't had a lot of showings. You know, maybe we want to consider a price adjustment. You know, just call them to tell them you're alive. I mean, they need to hear from you once in a while. You also might want to talk about interest rates and forms of financing that maybe they didn't want to consider at first, but maybe there's been a change and they want to consider that now. So that's the list of things you can talk about with them when you give them a call if you're kind of stumped for what to say when you call them.